Today we're going to be checking out this 2015 Honda Accord. Without any further ado, I'm not going to waste any time. Let's go ahead and get straight into it. This car is finished off in modern steel, and it really does look good because it's like gray at first, but if you look at it from a different angle, then it goes to like a blue color, and it looks so good. This car is powered by a 2.4 liter four-cylinder with 185 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque. And with that 185 horsepower 2.4 liter four-cylinder, you can expect a 0 to 60 of 7.9 seconds. This car has a fuel capacity of 27 out in the city and 36 out on the highway. This car has a 6-speed automatic transmission, but you could also get it with a 6-speed manual or a continuous variable transmission. This car has a weight of 3,186 pounds, has a length of 189 to 191 inches. This car has a width of 73 inches and has a height of 57 to 58 inches. So now the very first Honda Accord came out in the year 1976, and there's now been 10 generations. Whenever it came out in 1976, it was sold as a compact hatchback, and that body style lasted until 1989. But then after 1989, Honda then added more body styles, including the sedan, the coupe, and then the wagon. And then for the 6th generation, it evolved into an intermediate vehicle to compete with rivals for the international markets. Here's a very interesting fact about the Honda Accord. In 1982, the Honda Accord became the first car from a Japanese manufacturer to be produced in the U.S. when production commenced in Marysville, Ohio at Honda's Maryville Auto Plant. Numerous road tests rate the Honda Accord as one of the most reliable vehicles and has been on Car and Driver's top 10 list a record 36 times. In 1989, it became the best-selling import car in the US, and as of 2022, they sold about 20 million units. All Honda Accords were front-wheel drive and also front engines, and there was currently 2 different versions. You could get a base model with the 2.4 liter four-cylinder with 185 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque, and it can do the 0 to 60 in about 7.9 seconds, or you could up to the sport model. That car has powered by 3.5 liter V6 with 278 horsepower and 252 pound-feet of torque, and the sport model can do, get this, 5.6 seconds. The sport model is about as fast as a GMC Cyclone, which could beat Ferraris from the time. I guess we can start with exterior quirks. Now, one interesting thing on the outside of this car that's actually not even available on the sport model is a side camera. Now this side camera is not on the driver's side, it's only on the passenger side. But this could actually be very useful. Let's say you're driving down the road one day, you need to change lanes. It's kind of like a little blind spot monitoring system. Whenever you actually turning right, like whenever you turn on the right turn signal, the camera actually pops up in the center screen, so you can actually see what's in that lane right next to you or what's behind you from that side. And that's a really useful idea. Moving on to the inside of the Honda Accord, and I must say this is a really nice place to be. And I will say I really do love the steering wheel. I love this cool texture that's on the steering wheel as well. It is plastic, but it's kind of like a rubber plastic. It feels really good. I really like how the steering wheel feels. Then of course, start up the car, you have to put your foot on the brake and then press the start-stop button, just like you're starting a fighter jet. That's a really cool feature. Actually, whenever you start up the car, a little graphic pops up in the center screen because it pops up the Honda badge, and it makes a really interesting noise whenever it gets done. Looking at the gauge cluster, this gauge cluster does look really cool. Of course, you got the tachometer on the left side, you got the speedometer in the middle, and then of course you also got all your important gauges like your fuel gauge and your temperature gauge on the right. Let's go ahead and move on to the center console, moving on to the temperature. So now of course you can also sync it, so you can make it be the same temperature on both sides. As you can see, as I move up and down the temperature gauge, it makes it easy. Or you can actually remove the sync button, and of course you can actually make the driver's side have one temperature and the passenger side have a certain temperature. Let's say the driver is too cold, but the passenger is too hot. So the passenger can lower his temperature down, and the driver can raise his temperature up. And that's a really cool idea, and I think all cars should have it. I'm not going to go over too much into anything else about the climate controls because everything else is very simple. Of course, you got your auto button on the top left. Of course, you also got your fan. You can turn it on and off. The one thing I do not like is the fan speed, because the fan speed is a button. I wish it would be a dial, like even in modern cars. But still, this is a 2015, so newer Accords, they do have dials to control the temperature the temperature and the fan speed. So that's in all newer Accords. I'm not going to go into that. Of course, you also got your mode button. Press the mode button. That actually sets where the air comes out. as obvious. Sync button that actually syncs the temperature for both sides. And then of course you also got your AC button that turns on and off the AC. And then of course you also got your circulation button. Then of course you also got your rear defroster, and also you got your front defroster. Moving on to the radio controls. Of course, for surrounding the radio controls, you got your climate control vents, which they work just like any other climate control vents. I'm not going to go into those. And then you also got your display button. You press to go to display. Here you can actually see your different. You can actually change different functions. You can actually select the wallpaper, audio, your current drive. Now, what current drive does is it actually takes you to this screen here, and this screen right here, it actually lets you know like all the information for your current drive. Like it lets you know your fuel, it lets you know your average fuel, and also let you know your range that you've used for that same day. Or if you want to go back to it again and you go to history of trip A, that actually even lets you know your past drives, your past 3 drives as well as your current. Of course, you got your first one, then you also got your second one, then you also got your third drive. And that's a really cool idea to see, so you can see how much you've averaged in the last couple of days. Pretty much all of the display features. Of course, you press FM and AM, that actually changes the radio from FM, AM, and stuff like that. Of course, you actually got your CD. This car does have a CD slot. You open it up by pressing this button right here on the gauge cluster, and that right there, of course, actually opens up the CD changer, and that's when you can actually then put a CD inside of there. And you press the CD button, and that right there is what actually plays the CD that's in your car. You also go to auxiliary, the AUX button, and of course you can actually plug in something inside of the car, and you press auxiliary to play it from that auxiliary. Of course, you also got your settings button. Now, whenever you go to the settings button, here's where all the cool car functions happen. Of course, you got your sound, audio settings, info settings, phone settings, system settings, vehicle settings, camera settings, and also clock adjustment. And I haven't really been able to find anything else that's really weird inside of the settings. So I'm not going to go really too much into the settings. That's just all of the basic functions. And one interesting thing I did notice that this car does have a really interesting storage compartment right here. You pull back all up on this tab, you do have a really cool looking storage compartment in there. That's a really cool place to makes you be able to hide stuff. This kind of reminds me of the Corvette C7 hidden screen option. That's kind of what this kind of reminds me of. I mean, like from where I'm looking right now, you would not be able to tell that there's a storage compartment there. So, but until you actually flip up this switch, and just when you can actually see the storage compartment. Police officers pulling over Honda Accords, something to think about. Of course, you also got your door panel controls. Of course, you got your window controls, your lock and unlock buttons, your window lock button right here as well. Of course, you also got your mirror controls. And that's pretty much all the door controls. They work just like in any other car. Moving on to the back seats. Now, there really isn't that much interesting things in the back seats. Of course, you got your net so you can store stuff. You also got climate controls in the back seats. Then you also got a center armrest with cup holders in it, just like you would see in any other car like this. Talking about room and how comfortable it is back here. Now, I got plenty of headroom back here, and I even got a hat on, as you can see. And I got plenty of headroom. I got plenty of knee room. I've also got plenty of windows back here, so you're not claustrophobic. So it's a really nice place to be. And that's one thing I will say about this back seat. It's a really nice place to be back here. I can sit here all day long, all comfortably. It's a really nice place to be back here. And so that is the 2015 Honda Accord. So now for the fun part. Now it's time to get this car out on the road to see how it drives. Alrighty, time to go drive the Honda Accord. Let's go see how this thing drives. So far, it's a very, very easy car to drive. The throttle response is not that sensitive. It's about average. It's about as sensitive as my Camaro is. It's still that gauge cluster though. That gauge cluster, I love that gauge cluster. I love how it kind of. Oh, I also noticed that green light around the border of it as well.
That's your gas mileage.
Oh, really?
That tells you how well you're using your gas mileage.
Oh, really?
So the greener it is, the more fuel efficient you are.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, that's a.
So when it goes down to the white, you're using more gas. The greener you are, the more fuel efficient you are.
That is neat. I guess I can do a little bit. I guess I may do a little bit of an acceleration. I won't floor it. Yeah, it's about like my Camaro, I'm gonna say. That wasn't full throttle. That wasn't full throttle. That was about half. Yeah, just cruising around here. It feels really good. It's just like I could take this thing on a really long road trip and be just fine. The only real drawback that I'm noticing is whenever you start, I just notice that whenever the green light goes, if I just barely tap the accelerator for a dead stop, it is rather
it can be sensitive.
It can be very sensitive, and when you're actually driving, it actually, now the braking, I've noticed, extremely sensitive. That's probably a good thing though, because you know that's
it is. They're also fairly new brakes too.
Yeah.
So
because I'm not gonna say they don't feel quite like the Malibu I drove was. They definitely don't feel like the Porsche I drove. I'm gonna do a pretty hard acceleration. I'm gonna floor it. So I'm gonna see what this thing is like floored.
she's used to it. Don't worry.
Pretty fast. I've noticed that the handling on this car is incredibly dead flat as well. There's a turn coming up right up here. There's a turn coming up right up here. I know that I'm really familiar with. I'm not going to go nearly as fast as I go around this corner of my Camaro, but I'm going to, because my Camaro has a new anti-roll bar, so that thing's really good at handling this. This thing is bigger. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that handle. I think this thing turns on a dime. Yeah, this thing does drive about like the Acura TL I drove. It feels, you know, it isn't quite as fast as the TL I drove. Handling wise, it feels just like it. Exactly like it. Brakes don't feel about like the Acura TL. The brakes were a little bit lighter. Thing is that one also had paddle shifters. I was able to use that. Well, this is a pretty cool experience. This is the second Honda I've driven. I've driven a 2011 Civic as well. So there we go, y'all. There is the drive of the 2015 Honda Accord, and I must say this car drives incredibly well. Steering is so dead flat. Braking is a little bit responsive, but that's kind of a good thing because that can be really, really helpful. And like, let's say if you see someone in front of you coming up, it's basically instant braking power, which is really, really good. It's really nice and safe. Throttle response, like at the first stoplight, it did. And my back end did go a little bit, but after I got used to it, it drove pretty good. So that's the 2015 Honda Accord. And so y'all, that's the 2015 Honda Accord. And if you guys did enjoy, please make sure you guys go hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and also go ahead and go drop a like on this video to support me in the channel. Also, guys, can subscribe to me and all my other YouTube channels. They're going to all be linked in the description box down below, as well as also on my social medias. They're going to all be linked in the description box down below as well. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching today's video. Peace out.